Hello, welcome back to the Access Sport podcast. My name's James Gallagher, and today I've got two fantastic guests. I'm joined with Dean Garnett, who's a pro MMA fighter, and then a former boxer turned coach, Steve Smith. So, guys, talk to me first off a little bit about your early years. I think that's important, especially for students to kind of know where it started for you. So, Dean, talk to me about that upbringing. What was that like for you?
I had like a typical, childhood growing up on a council estate in Speak. I actually got into boxing when I was about 8 and kept it up till I was 12. And I remember starting to watch UFC on Bravo. Randy Couture was fighting Chuck Liddell, I think the first ever time I watched it. And I was thinking, that's crazy. Like, obviously I enjoy me boxing, but the way they're choking each other out and all this other stuff. And I was just dead entertained by it. And I kind of dipped out of the boxing. I never used to get many fights because I was so small. So I wasn't getting enough activity, and then before you know it, I was just out doing what kids do and enjoying being a youngster. And I was out of the combat sports arena then till I was 19 before I walked back into a gym and picked up MMA again. So yeah, that's kind of the little route that got me there.
It's nice, isn't it? I think having a story like that you mentioned that like slight bit of adversity as a kid. These people saying maybe you're too small to be able to fight, and you've kind of overcome that. And obviously there was something that was boxing as well, a part of that you were interested in.
Yeah, I say I boxed as an amateur, but there wasn't many kids my weight, so it wasn't that I was too small to box. Like, it was just there was an opponent my size. Do you know what I mean? So only had about 3 fights in 3 years. Wasn't enough to keep me engaged.
And Steve, as well, the same for you. Obviously, I know you come from a family and a line of boxers, but what was that like for you? Because I've heard you've talked about before that it was enjoyable to box and train with your family, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was possibly different to other people with having my family around. It was just we boxed a lot at home. We'd run home from school, we'd get the gloves on, and we'd be sparring in the house. So it was quite normal to us, if you know what I mean. When we got in the gym, it was second nature to us. It was quite easy, for want of a better word. It was sort of like it wasn't new when you first go in a gym. I've seen kids now, I still watch kids now with coaching, and they come in the gym and it's very like rabbit in the headlight. It's quite new to them. They've got coaches watching them, because we were always boxing with brothers, it was just what we do at home anyway. And my elder brother Paul, he's 3 years older than me, so he went into, we grew up on the Easby estate in Kirkdale, and it's where the Rotunda's based, and he went in there I just followed on like anyone else, really, followed my elder brother around, and I went in and I followed him in there, and then Liam and Callum followed on after me, so 4 of us all ended up having pretty decent careers and made basically a life out of boxing.
It's nice having that role model, isn't it, as like an older brother. But moving on to, like, obviously you both started your career, and what was that jump like from being like a youth to that adolescent game of having to then fight against men? You know what I mean? What was that like for you guys?
See, I'm not sure what the transition's like, and I'm going to be interested in what Dean says with it. But in the boxing, you start off boxing schoolboy, so it's all by your school year. So you box everyone. Club shows, you can box anyone within 12 months. You can have club shows against kids either above you or below, but championship wise, it's schoolboy championship, so it's based on your school year, whatever school year you're in. So you never really have much difference. There's kids some more mature than others, some kids mature later than others, and that's just normal, but you don't really have that jump until you get to like 17. You can go in like a tournament where it's in under 19, 17 to 19 tournament, so you have your first bit of experience where someone's a little bit older than you. And it's only when you're at 18, you're classed as a senior, you can then box men.
Right, okay.
So you notice your first time. But you notice, I think, because when you start to get into that age, any decent coach gets you sparring with men and gets you sort of used to it to an extent. But you do notice when you first get in there and you try and like move a fella in a clinch and he's not budging, or he smacks you back, and you think like, wow, I'm in a fight here, you've got to switch on. So maturity's big, I think, in all combat sports.
Yeah, obviously MMA is a bit of a different ball game to boxing. So when I was starting MMA 17 years ago, it's a bit like the Wild Wild West now, but it's really bad then anyway. What Stephen's just explained there is like a real good pathway for young fighters to go through. That's how it should be. You go back 17 years ago, there was no even proper amateur MMA. They had semi-pro. So you wore 4-ounce gloves, which is what the pros wear. You done 5-minute rounds. You just couldn't hit them in the head on the ground. But But now they've changed all the rule sets. Now there's lots of junior shows, lots of opportunities for the amateurs to get fights internationally. There's world championships now. So it is catching up, MMA, but it's still a little bit behind in the pathways and the frameworks that actually carry these young fighters into the pro ranks.
It's funny that, isn't it, the difference between the two, isn't it? And they're both combat sports, but they're so different, aren't they?
It's only down to time, no. Boxing's just been around a lot longer, so they've had a lot of time to build the setup and to get the regimes done rightly, where, you know, as Dean said, MMA, you know, a number of years back, it was sort of all new, so they were a bit unsure about what was the right method, so we said, like, fighters jumping in with 4-ounce gloves on and doing 5-minute rounds, where now they're sort of embedding them into the sport properly and letting them learn before you get up to sort of championship level, like proper fights, do you know what I mean? And that's no disrespect to the starting off. It's the same with us in boxing. You know, you start off when you first fighting schoolboys, do 3 1.5-minute rounds, do you know what I mean? And then you build up and you build your engine as you mature, and you end up doing proper fights later on.
You have both achieved a lot in your careers, respectively, in terms of, you know, fighting as well as coaching as well. But a thing that I always think is that, you know, we have goals, don't we, in life? That from young kids, you might think that I want to be world champion, or I want to do this in my chosen industry. But when you actually get there, you build it up in your head, don't you, to think, like, when I get to this certain place, this is how I'm going to feel. When you actually achieved it, what was that process like? Was it a case of, you know, I've achieved it now, and what was that like for you both?
I'd say, like, for me, I feel like Stephen's obviously clocked the boxing game and then he's moved into coaching. But I kind of started in a position where I looked at it as, like, I want to I don't want to fight and then go for another role. So in my head, I was like, I'm just going to go all in on a career in the sport now. And, you know, I've done some decent things in the fighting game, but I've still got a little bit to do. I've got some big stuff in front of me. But I'm glad I still got my coaching degree behind me. We were just talking then about the difference with boxing and MMA. You know, the reason it's where the difference is because in boxing there's coaching pathways as well as talent pathways. So, you know, for me, having gone to uni early on in my career, I think it's given me a big step up now. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
I think that I've learned that about being around Dean lately, and seeing how passionate he is about having other avenues and about getting these kids now and giving them good pathways for life. And it's brilliant, and it's a pleasure to be a part of, because I too want to help as many people as I can, and by putting them on these pathways and giving them something to fall back on, you know, look, we want the best for them, obviously. You know, any kid that comes in here, boxing or MMA, we want them to succeed and do the best they can. But having that, you know, knowing the percentages of people who actually, you know, make it, having that to fall back on, will thank us in the long run for the ones who are unfortunate and don't make it as far as they should. But, you know, the original question, what you said, I think this would be similar for Dean. It's a weird feeling, but when you go through and you prepare for a fight or a belt or whatever it may be, whatever your goal setting is, when you win it, the biggest overriding emotion is relief. And that's daft, but it's possibly even more so being from Liverpool, just the expectancy and the amount of people that are willing to kick you and put you down if it doesn't work, if you go and lose. You know, I've seen fighters like ridiculed when they've lost, and I'm like, they're at a high level. They've lost to a class act and they're getting stick for losing. So I think a lot of the emotions you feel are like, thank God I never lost, know what I mean? Like, just thank God I've won and it's worth it and it's paid off type of thing. So relief's a big emotion, what you feel, anyone. But it's also sometimes good to just pat yourself on the back and think, do you know what, I worked hard for that and it paid off. And sometimes it is good to be proud of yourself, and that doesn't mean get carried away and get big-headed, but, you know, pat yourself on the back now and then and know that it was worth it. All the hard work you've put in was actually worth it, and you've succeeded.
That self-recognition's so important, isn't it?
You need to, and that's what, like, it's hard explaining sometimes to the young kids, but now and then pat yourself on the back, like, thank yourself, well done. Like, you've put hours and hours in to dedicate yourself to get the results you've achieved. Like, well done, you know, thank yourself for it and give yourself a bit of recognition, but then move on, set more goals, small term goals, setting something what's massive, in my opinion, in terms of reaching any objectives, whatever they may be. You start off, obviously, aim for the top, aim to be the best, aim to be world champion. I've got no problem with that, but, you know, set your target first, be British champion, be the best in your country. If you can go and do that, then aim for the European and whatever else, and then set yourself small term goals, you know, even smaller than that, but whatever you are, small term goal setting will always put you on the right trajectory to aim up.
That's a fantastic point, that, and I think that's linking to these kids having a role model, someone to look up to from both ears, and creating that family dynamic within the academies is so important, isn't it? So that they feel welcome, but they can also thrive within that.
I'll add something there, mate. Yeah, so I think the environment is massive, and certainly young people now, we're seeing more and more mental health issues, and I think the power of combat sports and the arena that we train in, and just the environment generally. I remember doing a mentoring course a few years back, and it was talking about supporting young people to thrive, and it was about filling 5 cups every day, a sense of love and belonging outside the home, a sense of fun and enjoyment, a sense of freedom of expression, survival and health, and self-power and self-worth. And it was all about helping us get kids into different places where they can fill these cups up. And I was thinking, wow, we can just fill all 5 in one place, because you really get that sense of love and belonging from your team. Obviously it's fun every time you go and train, or it should be. And it just, I just think it's such a powerful vehicle for helping young people reach the full potential.
It really is, isn't it? And instilling that love and passion for the game is so important to them at a young age as well. Obviously, they'll have that love for it, but I think if you guys can reaffirm that this is what you can achieve if you work hard. And the next point that I kind of wanted to make was like discipline. That's a massive thing. I don't think just in boxing, but I think sports in general is a discipline in itself, isn't it? So how do you kind of teach that to the younger generation when they may not have it as much?
I think more so the age of the kids we're getting in here, like school leavers, we're opening opportunities for them. I think that, and so you might say similar here, it's mad the fact that I've learned his ages and when he sort of left it and come back to it, because I feel in boxing the biggest sort of age we lose fighters is this age of school leavers, where basically boys and girls start leaving school, start going out with their mates, they get a taste for alcohol and getting nights out and late nights and whatever else, and they're like, done with that. And just more often than not, they veer away from the sport because they see other things in life. And sometimes for us, just to show them, as I say, with the small term goals, with showing them like the sense of belonging and the achieving type of things, you can still do it. You can still enjoy yourself, as well as dedicate yourself to a sport and try and better yourself, better your life, and by doing it, as well as living your life, and so you can have a good life with that involved in it.
I think that's important, that, isn't it? Because it's having that healthy life balance, would you say, as well? Because I think at a young age, there's certain maybe characters who may just want to train. That's all that they do. But Dean, what you kind of think about the idea of having that balance and teaching that at a young age?
I think obviously for us, we want to create an environment and an atmosphere where the kids are, this is becoming intrinsic. We're not having to instill it in them. It's just growing inside them as they're part of these programs. But going back to what Steve said then, I can remember my time in sixth form, and I know my mum and dad would be very sceptical about me doing a course like this. And a lot of parents I speak to, they're not really happy at first. They're like, Dean, I really want them to do 3 levels at this particular school. It's really good school, and and I agree, there's probably really good options. But I often win them over now when I talk about this. What you got to think about is going and doing 3 levels. Fair enough, you've got a qualification, but actually, that environment, firstly, can there's a lot of temptation there to get into partying and everything that comes with that scene. I experienced it all in sixth form myself. Whereas the environment that we're bringing these young people in, it's a different culture. It's more about sport and athletic performance, and of course we have a laugh, and every 6 months we all have a shandy or whatever. But it's not about partying. It's about getting to the destination, and it's not because it's strict and we force them all to be disciplined. It isn't like that. That's not what it's about. It's just that's what they want to do. That's what they need to do. So it's all self-driven. It's all student-led, these things. So I think that's something to consider, for any parents who's thinking about their child. I don't want them on that MMA, boxing program. What's that going to do for them? And actually, it can do a lot for them. And outside of the education side of it, just the interpersonal skills, mate, being able to look someone in the eye when you shake their hand. And I think now we're in a position where those sorts of interpersonal skills possibly take you further than a qualification these days, because everyone's got a qualification out saturated, and it's about doing that extra, doing more. And again, you know, having the type of professional network that we're putting around these young people, I think we're getting the best out of them.
Definitely. And people buy off people, you know, whether people, when I say people buy off people, it's like a business term, isn't it? But personalities make a brand. Personalities make most things, you know what I mean? So it's having that personality, like you say, the interpersonal skills that you can speak to people. It's a lost art, really, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of what he said's lost on this generation, sadly, you know what I mean? There's a lot of young kids now where that's not their protocol, that's not how you look at them. You wouldn't see many kids now and, you know, standing up for people on buses and holding doors for people. It's not sort of the in thing at the minute, and it's sad to see because, you know, we want everyone to leave here, you know, and be respectful people. I want people to come in and say, you know what, lovely kid, that, and, you know, good people, and that's a nice thing anyway. If you're putting your kid into our, you know, our trust to basically help them better them as people as well as fighters.
Obviously, you've got numerous different fighting styles that you're accommodating at your academy. And what's that process like of having to tailor the needs of different individuals for the different programs, would you say?
In terms of the boxers, I think, you know, from a coaching perspective, I'd like to, you know, work with the strengths and help them with the weaknesses. So if a boxer's, for example, like a good mover or whatever, he's got really good legs, boxers on the feet a lot, I'm not going to tell them to stand still and throw. I'll try and help them with their inside work. So, you know, when a fighter does get to them, they can work on it and develop it. But, you know, you've got to basically get them boxing to the strength. So I wouldn't try and change a fighter's style. I'm just try and help them basically, because if I was the other opposition's coach, I'd say to them, you've got to try and get close and make them slow down. So they've got to be able to accommodate for whatever their opponent's going to bring. So I would work on the weaknesses, but I tend to, you know, want them to box to the strengths.
Yeah, I think MMA is a mad one because obviously there's so many disciplines in MMA and it's a freestyle fighting sport, and it's hard to say anything's wrong if it works, do you know what I mean? So for us, there's a lot more wriggle sort of room for guys to develop the styles. And equally, you know, because there's so many disciplines, we have so many different coaches. So I think it takes longer to find your style in MMA than it does in boxing, just because there's more tools. There's just so many more variables. So for us, you know, it's a little bit different than.
When did you
I
find
actually
that
think that, and spoke to Dean about that briefly, and I said, no, wait a minute, now my career now is coaching. I mean, my fighting's done, and now I'm a coach. I'm looking at everything coaching wise, and I'm listening to coaches and speaking to coaches. And I said how much harder it must be, basically. So like, I'm the boxing coach, so my fighters will have an S&C coach, and I've got no problem with it, but I've just got to keep in touch with them, and I want to know whether they're tired and stuff. I'm saying to Dean how much difficult it must be with them when they've got a wrestling coach, a striking coach. I was like, how would you keep up with it all, Joe DeBeer? And he was laughing and explaining it to me, which was fascinating to me, because again, I've got no experience in MMA, but I was thinking, I feel like my job's busy now being a coach. I just didn't give it the respect it deserves for how busy I am. But I was like, mate, it was MMA, and I've got to speak to all these different coaches and learn what my fighters do, and it must be really hard to keep up with. And I imagine how like disciplined they've got to be with their time, and they must be really on the ball to keep up with every different discipline.
In terms of mentorship, how do you guys kind of become almost a responsible mentor to these kids and kind of say, you know, I've been here, I've done it. This is like, you know, give them a leg up sometimes.
Yeah, it's, you know what, it's a fine line, because you don't want to come across as if it's about you. It's not. Like, me and Dean are both openly and honestly saying that we're trying to get the best for these kids, and we're trying to, you know, example setting's one thing, but, you know, being there for them as well and helping them. You know, as I say, some of these kids might excel in a certain discipline. I'd say there's more disciplines in MMA. They have kids who are maybe better on the ground and standing up and stuff like that, and that differs a lot. But I know Dean will basically try his best to help them. He won't say, look, this is how I done it, so you've got to do it this way. And I'm the same. I'm not going to say everyone's got to fight the way I fought, because, you know, at the end of the day, everyone's different, and everyone's got different styles and different strengths and different weaknesses. So all we can do is help them in terms of the fighting. But, you know, a large part of this course is away from the fighting. You know, we want to work on the people as well. We want to give them other avenues so they've got things to fall back on, and they basically leave as better people than what they come in.
Definitely, Dean. What's that been like for you as well?
Yeah, so do you know what? Mentorship is actually something I'm quite fascinated in. It was only a week ago I was reading some different like research papers and academic journals on the power of mentorship in sport. But you've got to think about, again, I'll come back to the sort of environment that you're part of when you're in the combat sports training arena, or and it fosters these relationships naturally. Do you know what I mean? It's like there are formal ways that we've set up mentoring programs within the gym, because they benefit the mentee just as much as the mentor. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's a natural process, and typically all your great role models will generally make great mentors as well. So it's, you know, obviously me and Steve are mentoring guys all the time, but ultimately, you know, the likes of Liam you're going to meet in a minute, and Joe, they're doing it as well now. It's you know, welcome to the layer cake, basically.
It's like a domino effect, isn't it?
It's how it works.
But people have idols as well, don't they? And what do you think about having industry idols? I think that's important, isn't it? People that you look up to within the industry, but also not forgetting about your family and thinking to yourself, you know, someone asked me a while ago, you know, who would be your mentor? And obviously I'm within the media industry, and, you know, you've got a lot of people that you look up to, but you never really forget about your mum, your dad, do you? People you look up to.
No, but that's a good way of looking at it, because, you know, you talk about role models in life, and your parents are your first and foremost, and, you know, the hero at the end of the day. And you look at like your role models. You don't just have one person you look up to and one role model, and that's it. You know, and it's good as Dean just said then, you can have role models in the gym, people who are like mentoring you and helping you daily improve and be a better person. And then you'd have someone as in might be like the champion at your weight, where you look at them thinking, that's what I want to get to. So you're sort of looking at them as a guide and as a guidance to what you need to do to be better and to be the best. And then ultimately you've got like the best, as I say, in boxing. I think Sugar Ray Leonard was the best fighter ever. So I always looked at him and thought, wow, like, look what he does. If he can do that, can I do it? Or can I try and be like that? You know what I mean? I was never going to be Sugar Ray Leonard, but it doesn't stop me trying to be. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing with these goal setting. Like, I'm a big fan of aiming for the top and, you know, seeing where you get to. And small term goals on the way up, you get there. Sometimes kids will start off and basically if the goal is, I've got to be the best in the world, I've got to be number one in the world, and then a few weeks into it, a few months into it, years go into it, and all of a sudden they're nowhere near, and they think, oh, I can't do this, and they'll spew it. Whereas I say, if it's small term goals to help them get to there, and, you know, what we just touched on there, you know, mentors in your gym, small, like role models, not just the best in the world, then they will help you develop. And if you're getting better, if you're improving daily, if year on year you're better than you was the year before, then, you know, you're on the right track.
It's about growth, isn't it?
100%.
That's the main aim, isn't it? And what was that like as well in MMA? You know, because it's slightly different, isn't it? We speak about that you'll have role models for different facets of the game, but ensuring that those role models are all teaching you different things and the right things.
Yeah, I mean, like, in terms of like role models and mentors, it's less about like them teaching you the techniques of the game. I just think it's more about, you know, picking up morals and values from them and philosophies and stuff, and that's where the biggest value is in that. It's more like the interpersonal stuff, and often it'll help elevate a person's ambitions and goals outside of the combat sports arena as well. And that was mentioned a lot in some of the papers I was reading last week, is, you know, a lot of successful athletes who took part in these studies have talked about the power of mentors, not only on the sporting careers, but actually in everything else that comes with that outside of the sporting arena. So it's powerful. Yeah,
it really is. And there's a book called The Alchemist. I don't know if you've heard or read it before, but it touches on the fact that the jewel that you have throughout life is on the journey. You know, it's all about the journey, isn't it? You've always got it with you. I think people think, you know, I'm searching for this jewel, this title, this whatever it may be, but it's with you the whole time. It is you, isn't it? So it's, how do you instill that in the younger generation?
That's what we're here and doing, and it's about, you know, every day, a structure to your day, getting up, and, you know, there's a college element to this course where, you know, kids are going to be going and doing like the college side as well as fighting side, and showing up and getting that done. You know, I'm saying this all previously to my fighters. Look, I'm not having your college teacher ringing me saying didn't show up, and then you think you can come to the gym. That's just not showing the right attitude, in my opinion. You've got to get there. Although it's not as nice to be doing sometimes. Sometimes you might not like that as much as you do the gym. You've got to, you know, put your effort in and show me that you can do both. That you can dedicate yourself to something. You've signed up for this. Then let's get it done. Achieve your short-term goals and better yourself as a person, really. Do you know what I mean? As I say, if they become better people through this, then it's a plus for us.
I think something that's been big for me is like, obviously when I started out in the sport, the UFC was like the be all and end all, and getting to the UFC was like the only way I feel like I've ever achieved my goals. But obviously as I grew into my career and stuff, I did get UFC offers, and contract issues with the promotion stopped it happening, but I've got no regrets about any of it. I'm happy with where I am now, and I've realised that, like, obviously I'm working with people who are in the UFC. I know a lot about how it feels to get to the top of the sport, and often a lot of guys are having 3-4 fights in the UFC, or even 10-15 fights in the UFC, and then once that's over, they have to start thinking about, okay, what am I going to do now? Because they're not set up for life. Most of them are still living hand to mouth. So it really isn't sometimes what it's cracked out to be, and that's why I'm so glad that I've done what I've done early in my career, and I'm so glad I've got the gym, and I'm so glad I've done what I've done, because I've got, like, my career's not over when I start fighting. It's over at 75, maybe 85. I'm still fit enough to get on the mat and give the lads a decent round, you know what I mean? So yeah, for me it's I'm glad I've done what I've done, because now I know there is no end. There is no end to it. No matter what you do, you should always want more. That's typically what, you know, guys who do what me, Stephen, and Liv and Joe and Liam do. That's how we're hardwired. So we'll never be happy anyway. So as soon as I realised that, I was like, just enjoy the process then, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It is, isn't it? The process.
It's a nice place to be in, and now I am back fighting with some big massive opportunities. I'm a dangerous man because I'm a happy fighter, and I'm not, you know, I'm not fighting to pay my bills, essentially. I'm doing it for the love of it right now.
That's powerful, that, isn't it?
The money's nice as well, but I'm doing it for the love of it, really.
And that's so important to instill, isn't it? I mean, talking about like mentality, and you've both had to use this in your career and your personal life as well. What's the process in terms of, I'm a big believer in meditation. I think especially for a combat sport, I think it's being able to visualize what's about to happen in the coming days, and also to remain calm and in the moment. How do you instill that in these young individuals?
I think first and foremost is knowing that every individual's different. You know, some individuals will need a smack 'em, psyching up for it. Some individuals will need their arm around them and tell how good they are and how much better they are and stuff like that. It's knowing your fighter first and foremost, but mentality is everything. And, you know, I'm sure Dean will agree with me, if you're going and getting in that ring or the cage and you can be prepared 110%, like you could have done everything. If your mentality's not right and your bottle goes, or you're just not up for it on that day, then you're not going to win the fight. And it's a big thing in boxing, where sometimes just the most mentally strong person might just win that fight. It might just be the one little edge they've got on them, because, you know, fighter A could be, you know, the big talent, the one with the, you know, the big backgrounds, and, you know, the prospect who they're expecting big things from. But fighter B might just be more mentally strong, and so from us just might be up for it more that day, and you can catch anyone on a bad day and get a win over them. But your mentality is massive when it comes to combat. It's just it's everything, in my opinion.
90% mentality on a day, like, it is, really is. In terms of meditation, I don't like that word, because I think it sometimes alienates the type of people we're talking to today. But my mate Scano uses the word mental fitness training whenever we're talking to young people, and we want them to sit still and concentrate on something. And again, like, when we think about being an elite athlete, you've got your 4 C's, your sports psychology 4 C's, your commitment, your emotional control, your confidence, but concentration's a big one. And again, meditation can really help you do that. But visualizations are a different ball game again. You know, there's research out there showing where they've taken a group of participants, had them visualize a certain technique. They've had a group practice it, and they've had a group do both. Well, the group who does both is twice as good as the other 2 groups. And I see it with some of the lads in the gym. They're fighting, and I can see them like 3 weeks out. Every time I see them, they look pure stressed, and I'm trying to instill in them that, like, listen, don't worry about losing. What are you thinking about? Oh yeah, I'm thinking about losing. Well, if you've got 24 hours in a day, you sleep 12, you've got 10 left, you've got all these things going on, you might have an hour a day where you can actually visualise your fight. I like to do it before bed, but, you know, I could be sitting at the traffic lights on red, and it'll just happen all of a sudden. I'm on top of my opponent, or whatever it is. So it's something I do a lot of, and I don't think there's any successful athletes out there who don't have good, you know, understanding of how to use visualizations effectively. So every moment you spend with these visualizations of losing, you're literally stacking the odds in the favour of your opponent. So I'd never do that. It makes no sense to me. If I've got a fight, I'm committed to winning it. I haven't got time to worry about losing. If you're doing that, I think you've already lost anyway. So yeah, I think the visualizations are hugely powerful, and we, you know, I often bring in sports psychology students who are on the final year of the degree or the masters, and after sparring, I'll bring them in on a Tuesday. The lads will be doing an ab circuit, and you know, they'll do a presentation to the team on visualizations, goal setting. We do that typically every 12 months as well. So, you know, as much as we want to instill it in them, they need to be educated about the power of it. Again, it's covered on the BTEC, and it's covered if you go into higher education and study sports psychology or sport coaching. So yeah, it's probably what. In fact, I've done a post last week saying it's visualizations are the most powerful toolkit in any fighter's box. They're great for you know, developing a technique or a performance. I've done them on my way here about what I want to talk about today. So yeah, transferable skills again. Like most of what we're talking about today, everything's transferable. What we're giving these young people.
There's a topic that I think is important to discuss, which is the term ego. Now, this is the type of thing, and Dean, I'll come to you first on this one, is it can be used in your advantage, but I think if not controlled right, it can be also against you. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I walked into the MMA gym that I started at 17, 18 years ago, full of ego, thinking I was a tough guy, thinking I was an hard case, wanting people to think I was an hard case, all ego driven, completely ego driven, and then just probably took about 6 months to knock me down a few pegs, and then that was it. I was sound, I had the right role models, and I'd like to think, you know, I've really kept my ego in check since then, since 20 years old, like. And if I didn't have MMA, who knows what I would have done. I dropped out of education, dropped out of my accountancy degree. This is all before taking up MMA full time, and that got me back into university, got me back into education. So yeah, I think the ego, it doesn't serve me anyway. I'd say the less ego I apply and use in my daily life, my training, my coaching, my work, the less of it, the better. Yeah, so less is more.
Exactly. And what about you, Steve?
Very similar. I pride myself on the fact that I don't feel like I've got a big ego. I don't feel like ego's ever part of my life. I've been humbled enough to know that anyway, do you know what I mean? And I think the sports we're in, I smiled and like I nearly laughed when he first walked into a gym and thinking he's a bit of a hard case, and I was going to jump in, but I thought I'll let him talk. But these sports let you know quite quickly you're not as hard as you think you are. And I've seen some real proper hard cases walk in the gym. And the mad thing about, like, again, speaking from boxing's point of view, a lot of boxers get into boxing because they were bullied in school, and the mum or dad goes, I've got to get him in the gym, he's got to learn to protect himself. So a lot of the bullied kids come in the gym and they get in the ring and they're doing the discipline, and the hard case will come in the gym and jump in, and next minute the kid who's bullying him's boxing the head off him. And you tend to find the ones with the ego can't stick to it. They're like, sack this, get in the street, lad. And they'll leave, and they won't want to be part of it. And you'll find the kid who was bullied growing in confidence and like, wow, I'm boxing his head off, and they get a new lease of life, and all of a sudden they're going to school and they're getting brought out in assemblies, becoming national champion and stuff. And then all of a sudden, you know, just the bullies don't want to go near them. Bullies don't want to be people who let them back. They want an easy ride. Do you know what I mean? And I think they do quite let you learn quite quickly that the sport's a tough sport, and you can't afford to have an ego in it. As I say, I've seen fighters with egos, and you've seen them, like certain fighters dancing in the ring and then getting knocked out, and it's all over YouTube and memes and that now. So you're quite quickly humbled in both sports, and it's something that we've all, as I said before about being in bad times, I've had like in sparring, and I've sparred brilliant against world champions and left the gym thinking I was the best. And I've had spars where I've been battered in the ring and I've left the gym thinking I'm not as good as I thought I was. And they're probably 2 days apart. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's a mad game, mad sport, but of course, and the ego doesn't last. And I'm telling you that now. Anyone who goes into a gym and dedicates the time and puts their effort into it, you learn quite quickly the ego's got to go.
Yeah.
Do you think the same?
100%.
Yeah. Classy back in the day, wasn't it? You mentioned Sugar Ray, you know, it was classy. It was,
yeah, you didn't see them doing things for views and figures because it wasn't about. They were just proper getting in there, staring them and looking them in the eye, saying, I'm winning this fight. And they both honestly believed they were going to. They both have a level where they could beat anyone in the world. And they got in and they put it all on the line, and the better man won. And them fights are still watched now. Them fights are still getting viewed now by our generation because of that. Because they were that good. Not because they had X amount of views or they were playing up in press conferences. It was just about the fight, and the skill set involved was unbelievable.
It was a head-to-head, you know, it was like a battle, wasn't it? And I think that's kind of getting slightly missed, and I think that's something that I think's so good about what yous are both bringing to it.
That, when in that generation, it was the best v the best, is why it's still viewed now, and still, like I grew up watching the Fab Four video, which was Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearns and Roberto Duran. The fights they all had with each other, and it was unbelievable to watch, and I still watch it now. But that's where those boxers was a little bit in order of MMA to an extent, because you mentioned UFC there, but we watch that and you see like the 1 fight to 2 and 3 fights 4, and they get told the best fight the best because they basically get told it, because there's sort of one man at the top and he's telling them who's fighting. Where boxing's getting, it's not happening as much now with all this influx from Saudi. The best are fighting the best, and it's good to see, and it's given new lease of life to the sport. But it went through a phase of Eddie Hearns, best boxer, for example, Anthony Joshua. Frank Warren's best boxer, Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's had all money invested in him through BT, and Frank Warren, they're not going to go and let him fight in the zone with Eddie Hearns and vice versa. So everyone's saying like, oh, he's scared of him. He's not. They're just not allowed to go and fight each other. So it's never going to cross over, and it was making it hard to make these fights. But now all this money's coming in from Saudi, and they're walking in holding hands and all that. It's just everything's forgot about because money talks, and
it's a new era, isn't it?
It is, but the best fights are happening, so everyone should be happy about it and say, do you know what? He's fighting him, but he was never going to.
That's what you want, isn't it?
This fella in Saudi Arabia saying, I want to see him against him, and he's making it happen, and he's the best thing that's happened to boxing in a long time.
Definitely. And moving on now to kind of the collaboration between the two of you, can you kind of just touch on a little bit about that and kind of what you feel like he's going to bring?
So obviously we're working with Access Sports, and they're a massive organisation in terms of what they do in creating pathways for young people into sport, and it's boxing and MMA. But you know, I was asked Stephen this before, how long have you been involved with boxing? 25 years. I've been in MMA 17 and boxed for 3 myself, so I can't believe it. We've got nearly 50 years experience between us,
yeah.
Plus obviously, you know, the networks that we've also got access to, the other coaches that we work with and everything else. So it's just great to be able to put all that together, you know what I mean? It's almost like a little holy trinity that these youngsters are going to be able to tap into. And I just think in terms of professional network and what they're going to be able to do over the next 2 years, you know, little things like taking them abroad to maybe the UFC PI, getting up to Sheffield and interviewing coaches there about, you know, what it's like to be part of an elite coaching team, and just you know what I mean? It's just exciting to have so many different outlets to tap into where we can actually create meaningful opportunities for enrichment for these youngsters. So I'm dead excited about it, mate, and obviously I'm fighting myself still, so I'll be picking Steve's brains as much as I can, really.
Yeah, it was very similar to me. Myself and my brother started doing an academy years ago where we linked up with Access as an education provider, and we said we want to do something for the kids to sort of, you know, give back and get them on these pathways, and started doing it. But we were all professional fighters at the time and didn't have the time to put into it. We was employing coaches, and I think it was something what always sat in my mind. I thought I want to do that properly myself. I want to really put my time into it and help people and stuff. And then since retiring, I've got involved and I'm doing it now. I've got my own thing where I was trying to do this and push it as best I can and try and help as many young people. And it got pointed out to me about Dean and what Dean was doing, and how similar mindsets we both are, and we both got a similar ambition to help people. And it was mentioned about we could link up, and I was made up, to be honest with you. I was buzzing with it because a couple of conversations with him and hearing how enthusiastic he is about it, about helping young ones and stuff. I thought it's exactly what I want to do. We can make something bigger and create it ourselves, then why not? You know, help each other, push each other, but more importantly, help all these young kids and give them opportunities what we never had. I keep saying it, and I'm not being cheesy by saying it, but I would have loved something like this when I was younger.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I stayed on the school sixth form, you know, similar to what Dean said, and I had a teacher on my case all the time, and I was boxing in the world under 17, so I was like, say, look, can I have a little bit of time for me physics coursework? And he was like, no. And I was like, all right. He said, I'm not having this, you've got to pick boxing or school. I was like, all right. And I went to walk away and he went, I've just told you pick. And I was like, really now? And he went, yeah. And I said, boxing, see you later. And I walked out to school and never went back. And I was good because I enjoyed school, but it was sort of always put to me as boxing or school. It was never like anything like this where you can do both. You can have an education as well as, you know, bettering yourself as a person and as a fighter. And I'd love something like this. And I can't stress this enough to these kids now where it's an opportunity. Just go for it. Give it your all and see what you get out of it. And I think there's so many chances to get as far as you can in the sport with this things like this helping you.
I think it's so important as well. Obviously, access is this is the type of thing that they want to do is creating these pathways for young individuals, but also having real life experience. You mentioned like traveling to different places to meet people as well as you two who are in the industry and interviewing them. I think that's so important to be able to do that, isn't it?
Something Dee mentioned then about the reach we've got, like between us, again, not blowing our own trumpet, but we know quite a lot of people in the sports and I've got a good network to reach other people. So it's going to give these kids opportunities to go and train at good gyms and meet good fighters and get to interview them and ask them questions and pick their brains. You know, that's something that's unbelievable for young kids who are getting involved in the sport and, you know, bettering themselves in the sport to have these opportunities. Again, I keep saying it, but I wish I had that type of opportunity when I was the same age.
So moving on as well now to player development. So touch a little bit on that and how going forward, what that process is going to be like for you guys.
So obviously, like the leaving school at 16, they're getting the chance to train full time. So that's basically for us. That's the crux of it. Most youngsters who are 16, 17, who are training to be wanting to be MMA fighters in the future, they're probably still at college doing something else. Even if they're doing a sports course, they're probably doing football or some other sport because there aren't many boxing or MMA courses about globally, never mind in the UK. So these are unique opportunities, mate, and I think like it's going to set you aside if you're able to train twice a day and the competition's training once a day, well, you're getting double bubble, aren't you? So I just think like, you know, that's the crux of it. Obviously they've got us to help them, but we're just using the same strategy every club and everywhere else is using. We've just got full-time access to be on the job with these young kids, getting them where they want to go to. So that's what it is. It's about being all in on the sport and being full-time, and it happens naturally. There's no shortcuts, there's no secrets, there's no special formula. Turn up, put the work in, be in the right environment, work on your internal assets. Success, mate, it's there.
Definitely, and having that support network of being able to obviously use your 50 years of experience plus all the network that you've got is so important. But we spoke earlier on about the having that work-life balance. So in terms of the studying aspect of what you're going to be doing, what's that process going to be like for the students?
Okay, it's just giving them opportunities to, you know, better. A lot of the parents will be like, look, I'm not having them going all in on his boxing. You know, I want him to still, you know, pursue his college or whatever it may be they're doing. But, you know, we're big on the English and math side of things, but giving them that chance to be able to do the college as well as doing the fighting and doing the training towards the boxing or the MMA, it's something an opportunity for them to, again, I keep saying it, but better themselves. And, you know, you've got pathways then where basically it'll give you something to fall back on should your career not go the way you want it to. Look, we'd all love it, but every kid that comes to us is not going to end up being world champion. It's just sod's law, you know what I mean? If you look at the law of averages, every kid that puts a pair of gloves on is not going to be world champion. So we've got to make it where they can give it all they've got. They can give every chance and put everything they've got into boxing, but have a fallback. And the same with the MMA lads. You know, they're going to come into it and they're going to give everything they've got to it, but they're going to be, you know, working other avenues to make sure that should it not work out, there's other ways in life for them.
And that's important, that isn't having that progression route.
I think practically as well, like obviously it's an MMA and boxing program, so if the kids have got fights or there's something going on that betters their industry knowledge, then it's easy for me and Steve and the tutor to work together for the students. Say, yeah, don't worry, mate, you can hand that in next week, no problem at all. Get your way in sorted. You got your fight Saturday. And I was lucky when I was doing my coaching degree, I had that same support. You know, I handed my dissertation in the same week I made my Cage Warriors debut in Echo Arena. So, you know, it's an education program first, but it's the study time is built round the training so it's practical for the students. We know what's enticing them is the opportunity to chase the dream to be a world champion. So we're prioritising that dream. That's the vehicle for them to do all this other great stuff, like get a level 3 extended diploma, or anything else that we decide to do for them. And me and Steve are going to sit down next week with some of the tutors from Access, look at the scheme of work for the next 12 months, look at some of the key modules. Okay, what guest speakers do we know between us? He'd be great there. That media, Nick Pete, we'll get Nick Pete in there. You know how it is, mate. That's what we're going to do. Oh, that's about periodisation, sports science, right? We'll make sure that's around the time we visit Sheffield's, England Institute of Sport and Performance. So the study time, it's not going to be loads of homework. They'll be able to do all the study work in the designated time. They won't have homework. And a lot of the study that they'll be doing is related directly to the work they're going to be doing with us in the gym. So it's all synergised. It's all one big, I don't know the best word, but it's together. Do you know what I mean? It's not like they're going to college there and then they're coming back to go to the gym. We've had to do that in the past, but right now it's, we're getting them in one place, under one roof, where the training and the goals, athletic goals, are priority, but yet we've still managed to build a successful programme around them that's going to help them achieve, good things in terms of their education and their employability skills as well.
It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you, and I'm really excited for what the future is going to bring with this, because I think it's such a good avenue for young individuals to take who've got that passion for sport and combat sports in general, yet that they want to make sure that they're bettering themselves and they're keeping their education options open. So listen, best of luck in the future, and hope to see you soon.
Nice one, mate.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.